Thank you all for coming. This is our annual homeowners budget review meeting. I'm going to clarify a few things about that. I'm Ken Spencer. I'm your homeowners treasurer this year, responsible with our finance team for putting together this budget. The caveat is right now, this is not the approved budget yet. This is our draft budget proposal from the finance committee with input from the board. And we are presenting it to you via the presentation I put online to get your comments so that the board members up here and back here can hear all the comments that you have. And if we, from those comments, we have the opportunity to adjust the budget, and then we'll meet next week and formally approve the budget. After we approve the budget, we'll get it printed, sent out to you like we do every single year. So that step is still to come. We're working. Before I get into any of the questions I've received so far, I need to thank everybody that worked to put this budget together. We have a lot of volunteers in our various standing committees, and it's chaired first out by Nancy Moll and her finance committee with Anna and her budget subgroup. They worked endless hours working with the standing committees, roads and property management, security, facilities, and technology. And the other committees to get all the inputs together on this budget. We went through this, and I need to thank all the board members for their very wise counsel. We had lots of deliberation and discussions. We made lots of hard choices. So this is what we feel is a fairly good budget. I hope you've all seen the presentation. I don't intend to go over all this presentation. I just wanted you to understand where it came from, and I wanted to publicly thank all these people for all their help and going through it. I've received several questions to start with, and I'll just cover a couple of them to set the stage and get them off the board, and then I'm going to ask for all your questions, anything you have. One of them, the first one was, why do we have this budget meeting without the actual budget being printed? And that's what I say. This is pre-official budget, this meeting, and it's designed to gather your inputs and get your thoughts and comments on the proposed budget. One misconception, come on in, we're just starting. One misconception I want to clear up right now is while we did a whole bunch of work on the pipes in 2022, there was no special assessment in 2022 for the pipes. We did the special assessment in 2020 for $100 extra and 2021 for $50 extra, got all the money, and then we ended up spending all that money finishing up the project this year. And kudos to Ryan and his team, as I saw in said in the start of that presentation, a huge 3-year project successfully done on time, within budget. And we actually did about 35% additional work that we discovered as we were going through the project, all within the original budget, without adding $1 from the homeowners. So Ryan and your team and the RPM Drainage Committee and that, thank you very much. You guys did a fantastic job. I think all the homeowners here would do that too. Okay. We had another question that had to deal with, we have some sub-associations, and one of our new residents in the sub-association asked why their fees are higher. And explained that we have 3 sub-associations that collect independent dues, not part of the HOA assessment process. So we have the Westport Neighborhood Sub-Association, we have the Eagle Cliff Condo Sub-Association, we have the Links Townhouses Sub-Association, and then we have the Nottinghamshire Properties Sub-Association. And those sub-associations have responsibilities that they have to do themselves, like covenants, and so they have to collect their own dues. So those people in those sub-associations have their own dues that they're collecting, and so there's a misconception, but it's not part of the homeowners. Now, some of the sub-associations, as in Westport, they have to maintain their entrance, but they also use some staff, and they pay for RCS staff to do their accounting and administration for them. So that's part of their fees is to pay part of the RCS tax. Totally independent from what we do with the HOA. So let's see, another little bit of misunderstanding on what the impact disclosure packages are and how they impact the budget. What do they cost people? This really goes to what we call the resale disclosure packages. By Virginia state law, we as an association are required to disclose everything about our homeowners association to all prospective buyers that come in and buy property in our things. It's just part of the law. In doing that, we incur costs of putting together paperwork and making these packages and that. And the state law gives us the authority to collect a fee to pay for that cost. And they set what the fee is. It's a state law mandated fee, and we just add that. We collect that. So it impacts us because we did, about 190 resales last year over the last 12 months. And so each one of those had one of these packages. We collect income from that, and then our staff gets reimbursed out of that income that was collected. So we put it into the budget just to acknowledge it's a piece of revenue coming in that we get paid at the house closure, and we have to account for it. So let me start off with my questions and see if we have some questions out of the audience. Please.
I had submitted a question online. I'm not sure I sent it to the right folks, so I'll just repeat it. It spoke to, your budget spoke to some, what I would call deferred expense, whether it was maintenance or capital expense, I'm not sure. I wonder if you could comment on that. What did we defer?
I have that question for you. And I tell you what, if I can put it back, because when I get down to it, I'll cover all of that. I have a detailed coverage of all of it. Just the close one, the short cliff notes, as you would say. Every year, our committees put in requests for budgets for projects they want to do out of operating funds, our operating budget. And we have to just go through and decide what those are. So I actually have a whole list of each one for you. Yeah, okay. Any others in the back? Please.
I sent an email. Did you get it? An email question?
Probably. I haven't. I have all of those. Yes. That were sent into budget questions. Yes. Okay. So I'll cover them.
Oh.
Okay. Which one was yours?
By Juliet Giblin. Is that what you want the name?
Okay. I just, what was the topic, if you don't mind?
It was impact disclosure package.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. It's actually the resale disclosure package. Is what it's called. And it's the information that a new homeowner gets from the homeowners association that tells them about our rules, our regulations, our covenants. It's quite an extensive package. It's got a lot of materials in it.
Okay, so that's the wash.
Yes, and there's a fee associated with that that's part of the closing costs. When you sell a home, that's part of the closing costs. We have the real estate agents collect the fee. They pay us by state law for building that package. Okay, got it. Thank you. I appreciate your inputs. I got a dozen good questions, so I really appreciate you guys taking the interest in our budget. Okay, others? Clay.
Right, Clay McEldowney. I have a question, kind of relates to the special assessment. But first of all, I'd like to say that personally, I know that how the finance committee puts in countless hours, and what a great job they do. And when you were on the finance committee, if you had been paid for all of the work that you and your board members we wouldn't be having much, I don't know what, you wouldn't have to go out and borrow money to pay or whatever you have to borrow money for. But it's really appreciated. And the board, of course, also, from what I've seen, has done a terrific job. And what my question that I'm going to raise should not be misinterpreted as having anything negative at all to do with any of the volunteers who have been doing yeoman's work in keeping our fees down. Our fees are lower than there's not anybody around. So we certainly don't have to complain about that. So mine is not a complaint, it's a question. And I discussed it briefly with you before, Ken, so you know what's coming. Our managing agent applied for a PPP and received well in excess of $600,000, $624,600, if I'm not mistaken. And this was COVID related. That initially was a loan which was forgiven and turned into a grant because the managing agent could demonstrate that there were no layoffs as a result. However, I'm not going to go into why that PPP evolved to what it was, but it had to do with generally to mitigate the financial difficulties that businesses had to reduce revenue as a result of COVID. Makes sense. However, our HOA never failed to produce the income to our dues. The dues were never reduced. I understand there's a memorandum of understanding, which is confidential, that addresses how the managing agent will be diverting some, if not all, of that $624,600 to the benefit of the residents. Here's my question after that long introduction. The budget includes a special assessment for next year. I forget the exact. Does it not?
Yeah.
No,
Does it not?
it does not.
Okay, that answers that question. I guess I should have read the small print. I guess
Just in big print. No special assessment this year.
I know that the pipe situation was, but maybe you can answer this. Is how, since this is a done deal, like it or not, consider it right or wrong, it's the way it is.
Yeah, there's been
It comes
several
from the
people.
taxpayer, I realize. But now that the managing agent has that, could you just explain for us how the HOA will benefit, how the residents will benefit dollar for dollar as we move to the
Okay,
future?
yeah. Thank you, because that was, it's been a misunderstood thing that has gone on. The board is fully aware of what's going on. Drew's been very open about it. As Clay stated, back in the COVID times, in accordance with the law, Drew, as a small business owner, was concerned about keeping his staff employed. At the start of COVID, when that came out, we at the board were not sure that our ability to collect assessments from the homeowners would not be impacted. And so as a precautionary measure, he applied for this payroll protection plan loan, PPP. He was awarded the loan. After about 12 months, in accordance with the law, the bank that he got the loan from forgave the loan. Drew came to the board after that point, after talking with the attorneys and that, and decided he would, as basically a sole business for the HOA, would like to use the excess proceeds from that to benefit the HOA in a way that would both be prudent and kind of conservative in nature, because there is always a statute of limitations, things can change. So we agreed to a plan where it started in 2022. He discounted the amount of labor that we would reimburse him for. So he would pay his people X amount, and he discounted it to give the HOA basically $100,000 this year as a discounted credit to labor. Now, because it's not a cash transaction, we didn't have a good way to fit it into a budget calculation. So what we did is we said we would hold that and accumulate it at the end of the year like we do every year as savings on the operational budget for the HOA. And then the excess savings is rolled over into the following year to pay for HOA services and reduce the amount of assessment increase. And that's what we did. So this year, we ended up, after having the board decided to cover some inflation expenses and do some work we planned to do, we had $75,000 left over. We rolled that $75,000 over into the 2023 budget. And if you saw in the presentation, there was a line that said the rollover. Basically, that was that money from Drew. And next year, we're going to do it the same way. We anticipate $100,000. We'll see if we have to use some of that cash for some things, but it will be rolled over, and then that will be a rollover into the 2024 budget. That will go on for a 5-year period. By that time, the statute of limitations is over, and then Drew agreed that all the residual that he didn't have to use. By the way, he had to pay taxes on that. As a small business firm, he's paid and covered those taxes. He took those expenses out. He had lawyers' fees associated with the paperwork and that, and he took those fees out. So the actual benefit he got, he is sharing with the HOA. And I want to thank Drew and Sally. They didn't have to do this. They got the money fairly, and they did, but they're helping out the HOA because he really supports us. So thank you, Drew, for that.
Thank you, Ted.
Certainly.
Very good explanation.
Yeah, I think it's the building where the workmen are, what do you call that, RCS building?
It's community
The
services.
community services building.
Yeah. So, who pays for the coffee? And who's it meant for?
Pays for the coffee?
And who is it meant for?
Oh, who's it?
Who's it meant for? The coffee that's being made.
Oh, in the building?
You want us to ask that? So, I mean, it's a supply expense borne by the FCHOA. The office is open not only to our employees, but to our residents. We have several meetings there during the week. So as residents come and go, there's certainly.
How often is it supposed to be made?
I'm not sure where you want to go with this, but I'll certainly talk to you later about it.
It's by cup, right?
Hmm?
It's a by cup.
I don't know, Ken. I don't drink coffee, so not good for me. Okay, we had one other question dealing with the budget, and has to deal with the financial details around the Talk of the Colony and the revenues this year, last year, and this year. Previous years, the Talk of the Colony would sell ads to small businesses. They would advertise in it, and we would collect about $110,000 in revenue from these advertisements. Last year, we budgeted about $110,000. As we went through the year, what we saw was, for various reasons, we were not selling that many ads into Talk of the Colony. And it got down significantly less than we anticipated. In our budgeting, like I say, 110 to collect for revenues, and then we pay about $85,000 for printing costs, and the rest of the surplus goes to the HOA budget as a revenue kind of thing. So last year, through September this year, the ad revenue is only $69,000, about $18,000 below the planned curve. We anticipate it's going to be about $26,000 under our budget target of $110,000 for the year. At the same time, the printing cost of doing the Talk to the Colony has gone up. Not as much, but it's going to probably, right now, it's about almost $2,000 more than our budget line for it. So the combination of less and more, we're getting to a situation where the Talk to the Colony is actually costing us to produce. We're going to continue producing. It's a great thing. We think it's a very good benefit to the homeowners. So for our budget this year, we reduced the planned revenue by $27,000 to $84,000 and increased the planned printing costs to about $88,000. So it's going to, net will cost us about $4,000 a year to print that magazine out, distribute it to everybody. But we're going to do that. It's just an essential thing to do, we think. Now, we've talked to our businesses that elected not to renew their ads. Get various reasons for it. Some of them say, hey, I just don't have enough staff to do the business. Some others says, I just don't want to incur the additional expense. Some others say, hey, I get great word of mouth advertising. I don't need to advertise and Talk to the Colony. Don't want to have any real hard conclusions to draw from that, but it's just a fact of life. Is what's going on right now is we're not getting the ad revenue. So we're going to go out and look for some additional small businesses that non-traditional and see if we can get them to advertise, Talk to the Colony, and this stuff. But from a budget perspective, we think it's prudent not to anticipate that until we actually get the money. So over the next year, Talk to the Colony. Yes.
No undertakers, please.
No undertakers. And no ambulance chasing lawyers. Anyway, that's a big change for us, and it was something that we just didn't anticipate happening out there, but it's just one of those facts of life that's going on. Okay, we had another question on our recreation facility budget, increasing from 46,000 to 86,000 in this year. This is really talking to in our capital reserve fund. And what we do, we have a capital reserve fund where we accumulate money over multiple years to pay for capital expense projects that are out there. In this case, in the facilities, this next year, we had put some money aside, and the board passed a resolution to address the sound abatement around the pickleball courts. And came to the town hall done by our good man, Roy Madsen. He explained all that stuff about pickleball pitch, the rapidity of the pitch, et cetera, and the impact on the local residents around there. So it's something we got to do. And so that's the majority of that increase is to cover that project. That's about a $65,000 project to do. And we're going to see if that fixes the problem. And then Roy has some further details on pickleball that he'll be monitoring for the next couple of years. Okay, the next one that came down was on the security, and this again was in the capital reserve replacement model. The security budget went way down. Good news is, this last year we bought a lot of gate replacement mechanisms, all of them that we plan to have for the next couple of years. So in the 2023 budget, we did not think it was prudent to buy any more gates. We got enough on hand. And the gates that we are getting, the new ones, are very, very reliable, easy to repair. So we've pretty much got enough gates to phase out all the old ones with new ones as they break. And so we didn't have to put money in it. So it's not a reduction per se. It's just a scheduling of what capital item we need to buy in what year for what department. So in this case, security department, good with what they got. They don't need to have any more. So we didn't put any additional money to buy additional gates. They're going to buy some cameras because they keep having to replace the cameras out there and those items. And your call boxes and things like that break. But the major expenses was a whole group of gates. I think of 8 gates we bought. And so picking out 8 gates at almost $8,000 or $9,000 a gate can reduce the budget down quite quickly. So we'll continue to put money aside. So when they need new things and new gates, there'll be the money there to get them. Okay. Question straight out, what do we plan to do with new pickleball courts? Roy covered that in his presentation. Based on the study that they did over the last year, and thank you, the facilities guys over here, Mark, kudos as a Herculean effort. Talk about guys that had to get in and find more stuff about more things that they didn't know about. We determined there's not a need to put new pickleball courts in right now, 2022, but there is a need to address the noise abatement. And how we're specifically going to address it is to be determined this year, but we set the money aside to do it in the budget, so in the capital reserve. So that money's there. They'll do it, and then they'll put it up, and then we'll measure and monitor it and see how it goes from there. We haven't ruled out in the future of expanding pickleball courts as more and more people want to play. We're going to watch it right now because we don't feel it's an urgent need to expand right now. We got to address the noise first, then we'll address the whether they need to expand and when they need to expand by monitoring the usage of the courts and the tennis courts and that. By the way, tennis is also expanding right now. So we have a lot of interest in activities by our residents, and we love it. So thank you. Take a break from my list and see if we got any more questions pop up. Bill, our former treasurer, come on, give it to me.
All right, here's a tough one, Ken. Your CSB's got $100K you're throwing at it next year under the capital reserve. What are you going to do?
What?
The CSB.
Community services building? Yes, we have it's scheduled to do a significant renovation interior on the community services building.
Doing the paving in the back parking lot.
And in the back parking lot, yeah. No, the 100K isn't for that one.
Recollection on that?
There's some day one work, there's some the storage area work, there's some renovation in the office work, replacement of some furnitures.
This was in the capital reserve.
In the capital reserve. Yes. Now, in the roads and property management, there's a significant part of the paving bill next year is also going to pave the back parking lot behind the CSB where the employees park and store their equipment too. Did we get you?
That was a softball. You did well.
He's a former treasurer. He tried to talk me out of running for the board, but then said I shouldn't be treasurer. It didn't work, I guess. We had a question about subsidy provided to sports colony clubs. Each year in the activities committee budget, they ask for funds to support some of the clubs associated with Ford's Colony. And we characterize that as clubs that are more service providing clubs. And so we approved doing that. So we have it, we support the aging in place, caring neighbors, calling kids and the swim team, both supported to do the activities with our youth that's in the thing. The craft club we support, the dance band for their event, we subsidize them for the cost of putting on the event. The Trailblazer Club does an Earth Day event, and we subsidize paying for that Earth Day event. The Garden Club does a lot of holiday decorations, and we subsidize them. The Model Railroad Club does a regional library display every year, and we subsidize them for keeping and updating those displays that they put over there because we think it's good PR for Ford's Colony. Tennis Club has a scheduling app. The Welcome New Residents Club, we subsidize in for the cost of postage, mailings, and stuff that we send out to new residents. And this year, we supported the Golf Wine and Dine Club on some printing costs they have. It's very minor. And then we also had to buy a waterproof headset for the water aerobics person. So they can stand in the water and instruct our people how to do it without shorting out the headset. But totally, yeah, it's a minor amount overall in the bigger picture of the budget, but we think it's very beneficial for all these clubs to have some support because that support is given back to you, the residents, immediately and directly. And so we like that. So I think this year is about $15,000 total for the activities committee that they spread around, but about half of that is for the youth programs. That's what the majority goes for. Calling kids, which did a successful trunk or treat. If you saw online, it was great out there. Drew has a new employee. One of the little kids got dressed up, shirt, put the logo on, and was being a Ford's Colony HOA employee. It was cute. It's great. In fact, he named Employee of the Year, right? So that was pretty good. Okay, I'm going to get down to yours because it's a very detailed one. It'll take a little while to explain. Like I said at the start, the standing committee submit a lot of nominations of projects they'd like to do. They rate them critical, necessary, nice to do, and that. It's things that would benefit all of us. There's not a bad project among it. But because of the finances and that, we had to make some hard choices this year. So we basically made some hard choices. This year, we decided to fund only the essential projects that needed to be done. And the big one in the room is our accounting software is old, it's dated, and the company that provides it will no longer support it. If that fails, we are in deep trouble. We made the commitment in the next budget to go out and find a new HOA-specific software that will include the accounting functions, but also give us a lot of other functions that we would like to have as an HOA, which will automate a lot of the things and responses and things that you deal with the HOA by paper and a lot of handwork and transcribing into multiple systems. This new software will all integrate that into one system. It'll also automate our bank transfers after you pay your assessments. We have to do a hand accounting now. It'll actually automate it and pull in automatically all that accounting. So that project is $35,000. We've deemed that essential and had to do. We have some trees starting to obstruct into St. Andrews Drive now, and we're going to spend about $10,000 going out and getting those trees limbed up and trimmed down so that they don't provide a hazard to people driving down St. Andrews Drive. We have some additional turf treatments we felt that were necessary to do so that our common area turfs, the grasses along the roads that you drive on every day, look nice and stay nice by just treating it, and it'll reduce the amount of actual physical maintenance we'll have to do in those areas. So that was another $10,000. And then we reorganized the building over by Westbury Park Pool and lost some storage space. So we're going to buy a portable shed to put up to store the chemicals for the pool. So that they have their own dedicated storage space. It doesn't interfere with anything else that we store over there in that area. So we felt that wasn't fair. And then we approved about 4 of the landscape design projects. Landscape design looks at updating the landscaping around our main entrances and around the colony. And every year they bring in a few. This year they brought in 6 or 8. We took 4 of them and said, these are the primary 4 we should do this year. And so those were the ones that we did. Now to get the other half of your question, we deferred, about $275,000 worth of other project requests. They included the purchase of a forestry mulcher. That's an item that goes on the end of one of those arm trucks that you can cut down weeds and brush and stuff with. It would be great to have, but at $22,000, we said not this year. There was a proposal to put irrigation systems in the common area grasses along St. Andrews and Edinburgh. We said, not this year. $70,000 is a little high just to water that area, so we'll do it by hand. With Ryan has a truck that he has with a trailer on it. You'll see it goes along and sprays the water on the grasses and keeps it going. There was a request out here to expand the concrete deck area right to here in the pool behind us. And we said, God, that would really be nice, but not this year. We'll keep them on the thing, and sometimes that's $11,000 additional for that. They also wanted to put a pergola over here for about $25,000. We said, not this year. Over by the Westbury Park, we have some trash bins there, and it would be nice to put an enclosure around them, but not this year. We can hide them behind the buildings and things like that for now. It doesn't look as pretty, but it just isn't that big. Technology actually came in with a $35,000 project to upgrade the audio visual, the stuff you see here, and then the CSB for the board to use. We said, God, it would really be nice, but not this year. Something we can put off. And then in the CSB, we got a lot of wood racks for storing things in the back side for the staff. And they said it would be nice to have some metal racks. So we said, no, not this year. And then finally, our favorite subject, pickleball. Wanted one of these sail shades in the area on the side. You see them, we have them by the pool, we have them by the kids' stuff. Again, gee, really nice to have, but I could spend $35,000 elsewhere. So, bottom line is, they're projects, they'd be nice to have, they'd be a nice benefit for residents at some point in time, but we just can't do it this year.
Can I ask just a follow-on? As a new resident, I'm aware you do a reserve study to update. These sound like special capital requests, the ones you accepted and the ones that you rejected. Is that is that something that I'm understanding correctly, or were any of these in the reserves?
No, these weren't in the reserve study. The way our policy goes is we put items in the reserve study that we already own that we need to maintain or replace later on. Our roads, our trails, our street lights, and things like that. A new item, like a lot of these that we're talking about, we, in our policy, say we should buy that out of the operating budget the first year, and then we'll put it in the reserve study for the replacement of it. Now, we do have another thing, though, and I'll answer your question that way. We, in this year's budget, per our policy, set aside $74,000 in our capital improvement fund. And that is designed to save up money to buy new capital amenities and things that would cost some money. An example of that is that pool that we put at Westbury Park last year. Slide. Pool slide. I'm sorry, the pool slide. That was one we funded out of the capital improvement fund. We saved up the money for it for 2 years and then purchased it and put it over there for the kids. So that's the kind of thing we do with that. Certainly, that's why we have these. as much to help you and also to help us as the board understanding what the homeowners would like. And these guys up here are taking notes radically, I think. Come on, or tell me you're taking notes. No. Big expense this year, and the question came about this way is, are we going to do more of the road sealing? And if you've noted, a couple weeks, last week, week before, we went around and we put some treatment on part of our main roads. So we look at these roads and we have what we call a rejuvenation. It's a substance that we put on them. It soaks into the asphalt, gives the asphalt some more support and life, and extends it out so we don't have to replace it so soon. The question is, are we going to do more of that? And the answer is not in 2023. But in 2023, for our plan, we have accumulated a group of roads that we need to actually strip off the top and repave to make the roads in good condition for all the people to drive on. And so we are spending almost over $100,000 in paving new roads in 2023. That will be done on John Pott and all the secondary roads off of John Pott. It'll be done on Dogleg and Parr around the Lynx Townhomes Association and all their associated secondary roads. Nob Hill, Manchester, and Edinburgh from Formby to Edinburgh and Edinburgh. So that whole stretch is designed that next year, probably more in the fall time frame, I think is Ryan does, when we can get in with the paving contractors, but we've rolled up all of that. We'll bring it in here for, get all of those done at the same time. We'll get the lowest per unit cost we can get from it in that big group.
If it wasn't finished this year, was gonna be done next year.
It's going to be done in 2025
2024
or 24.
Yeah, next year's schedule.
It would be done next year.
No, next year's 23.
Yeah, but you said it's not gonna be done next year, so that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, Blackheath is not going to be done next year. It'll be done the following year. And I have to commend the roads in the project management committee. They have a roads working subgroup, and they go out every year and spend a half a day inspecting all of our roads, looking for cracks and things and indications on the condition of the roads. And by doing that, then they identify those roads that have to be done. So this list of repaving, I told you, these are roads that they've identified that need to be repaved. It's not we want to, we need to.
No, but I was just thinking about the rejuvenation of Blackheath.
Yeah.
Obviously, somebody thought it needed to be done this year, and now it's not gonna be done until 2024.
Ryan, can you
So the product takes a little while to cure. Staff wants to get with the Roads and Project Maintenance Committee on it and see if we feel like it's a good application for that road, since that road's quite tight, narrow, curvy, all of that. So it's something that we'll be talking about with them with. It's not that it was needed, but it would be nice to do because it would extend the life.
Usually we do the rejuvenation on the main roads where they're wide enough that we can say, okay, we're going to do one lane passage today through the road and we'll rejuvenate the other side, let the rejuvenation cure. If we have nice, warm, dry weather, it cures faster. If we have damp weather, it cures slower.
No, I understand that, so I don't understand why it was important to do it this year, and now we're gonna study it and see if we're gonna do it at all.
I think it was a convenience factor, and we had the people here, and we thought we might be able to add that on, but we were trying to figure out the logistics of how we get those residents in and out. If basically we close the road for a day.
I know it wasn't gonna be.
Yeah, we usually don't do rejuvenation in the residential street areas and the secondary street. What we do is save those up to a point where you have to come in, chip it down, and repave it over. That's the primary mechanism that we've done in the past for those streets.
That makes sense, just that it is a through road.
It is a through road, and it gets a lot of traffic, and like Ryan says, it's also a very narrow road. I think they thought that it might be a good thing if, well, they had the crew right there next to it. They were doing it on St. Andrews, right from one end of Blackheath to the other end of Blackheath. Said, well, we just loop up here and do the other. But then it was, how do we get people down and around and out of that area? But,
The total payment is over $1 million.
yeah, oh, I'm sorry. They said
You said 100,000.
over $1 million. Correct. Thank you. I'm sorry. It is. Mine can't even read my own notes. It is over $1 million. Yes, for the total paving bill this year. And the comment on that is that money we have in the bank right now in our capital reserve because we saved up for the past 5 years, knowing that 2023 we were going to do this $1 billion paving thing. I think 2025 or 26 will be another major paving thing. So, and we do it in sections. Like I say, the Edinburgh, we're going to do that from Formby to Edinburgh and Edinburgh. John Pott has never been repaved since I've been here. I don't know. That may be still the original road as far as I can tell out there. And all those little sub streets and that. And their inspection, they got out there. There's cracks and everything in there that's showing that the road is deteriorating and allowing potentially moisture to get under the road and create potholes. So now's the time to fix it before we create potholes and create other problems. Other questions, please. I'm in an impromptu mode. I've got done all the ones that were sent to me. Any? Well, thank you all for taking concern. Thank you for being concerned, homeowners. Thank you for supporting our association. Like I say, big hand. Thank you, board, for all the guidance that went into this budget. We think it's a fair budget for all of you. It's reasonable. Not going to do everything we want to do, but it's there.
Just an observation, and thank you for the brief questions. While Lori and I were looking at your presentation online, we were saying, well, what about the people who don't have computer access or who will not sign on or haven't given you their email addresses? Because Lori especially has been going around seeing some people and telling them what's been going on, and they're shocked, just like in Casablanca. Shocked. What do you mean? And what is your estimate or the board's estimate of how many households in Forest County do not have or use computer access?
I would say I don't know, ask Sally to verify that from when she gets up there. I think we're right around maybe 10%.
I think that's high. I would go down under 10% for sure. And so, frequently visit the office, we have the opportunity to meet with them and know that they don't have access, and they keep up with us as well.
If I may, part of the answer to Ms. Rose's question, which we received, was we will mail the budget to every member in the association. Our bylaws require us to get it out before the 1st of December. So that's, once this presentation is made next week, the board will say grace over the budget. Then after that, we will publicize it, get it out.
But it's not just the budget, anything that happens. I mean, I had neighbors who
Sure.
didn't know that the road was going to be repeated. They didn't know that there was a budget meeting. No, they don't know what's going on. It's a big problem for a small number of people.
It is a big concern for all of our board members.
And we're going to have, Ken's going to be authoring a budget article in Talk of the Colony. And
It's all there.
And it's in Talk of the Colony, which is why it's important. And that goes to every
house.
There's nothing in October telling me about this meeting because we looked. So these people who don't have.
I'll take a hit on that because that's our oversight. We had this on the schedule for 2 months ago, and we've been working toward this date. So, the fact that we need to get it there, then, I'm sorry. Because we reviewed the top of the comment, and we should have caught that.
It's upsetting for these people, you know.
Yeah, that's what's going on, yeah.
So for the summer break, spring, you know when it'll start?
We have, put the money there. The facility committee is actually interviewing and testing out several vendors to see what it is. I defer to Roy. Yeah. We don't have it set yet. We need to decide on, we know we're gonna do it this year. We just need to decide on which materials and how to place it for the best impact. Any other questions? Anything at all? With that, thank you all. Drive safe home. Like you said, the board will meet next. Final. We'll get it printed up and you'll get it in the mail with a letter from our board president. Really nice letter, thanking you and welcome you for the holidays and that, and they will have the complete printed budget out there. If you have other questions, you know, feel free to keep sending them in and I'll answer them. I get all of them. Amanda gets them, make sure I get them. But we're here. We genuinely like to get feedback from you all the time on a number of issues. This is just one of them that we do every year. So, thank you all. Have a safe evening.